So in this lesson, we are going to talk about taking great photos because we're at the point where we need to start taking photos before we can actually create our pages. This is a presentation I actually had from a previous guest speaker in my classes, Teresa. And Teresa is a professional photographer and she's also a graphic designer. She specializes in senior photography, family portraits, kids, and then commercial work. And so this was a presentation, like I said, she put together to try to teach the best examples of how you can take different pictures. So we'll kind of be looking at different picture examples and ideas. So to start off, this is a really bad picture, and it includes a couple of different amateur mistakes that I see in a lot of yearbook photos and just on a lot of photos in general. So the first mistake here is that there's a cluttered background. I don't care to see this box with the fabric or the window light shining through, or the chairs and the decorations in the background. The composition is very uninteresting. When we talk about composition, this is how we frame our object. So if I'm trying to take a picture of this dog, what does the dog look like in my picture frame? The third thing is that we've centered the dog directly in the middle. In a couple slides, we're going to talk about the rule of thirds and how important that is and how that actually creates a more visually appealing photo. The fourth thing says that there is low contrast on the main subject. Contrast is the difference between the darks and the lights in your picture, or making something stand out. So right now, the dog is blending kind of into that cluttered background, and it's not really standing out from the background. Number 5 says there's unnecessary distance between the dog and the camera. And again, that adds in all that extra outside room that we're seeing. We can zoom in a little on the dog and it would look way better. And then number 6, the flow of the photo just isn't great. It's just not a great picture at all. So let's look at how we could improve this same photograph. So here we have take 2. I think the photo on the right looks a lot better, and as you can see, Teresa's notes, she said she moved closer to the subject, got down to its eye level, chose a better contrast between the dog and the background, and again, the dog is lighter, the background's darker, and then avoided any distractions, so it's a pretty plain, basic background. And then we really filled the frame, and we're using the rule of thirds in this photo as well in terms of our composition. And again, I know I've mentioned rule of thirds a lot, so we'll get to that in a second. So we're aiming to get a photo like this on the right. How exactly do we do that? Let's talk about some details. Number 1, you are the photographer and you are here to tell a story, especially when we're creating a yearbook. Your picture is worth 1,000 words. Show emotions in the story. They could be happy emotions like these guys on the snow sleds. They could be emotions where they're smelling all the fish. It could be disappointment or maybe some reservations like the sports game. Any emotion is a great emotion and that tells a story. Second, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS rule. This goes back to that picture of the dog where we're not trying to pack so much information in one picture. We're really just focusing on a main subject. So when we talk about filling the frame with our subject, I think the bottom picture of this girl giving the thumbs up is a great example. This can either be done when we are taking the picture or it could be done afterwards and we can crop it. So if I'm wanting to focus on her, I'm cropping or I'm zooming in so that she fills up the majority of this edge or this frame. So you can move closer, you can zoom, or we can crop the picture so we are focused on what we want the eye to see right away. Here are some other examples of how we can keep it simple and we've really focused on our frames of the subject. So we've got the bee, the frog, the eggs in the hair, the chipmunk, the person snowmobiling, and then just kind of a cool landscape of rocks. The third talks about trying different angles of the same object. So if we're going to go out and we're going to shoot something, make sure that we look for unique opportunities, either in emotion or in the way the object is viewed. Take pictures from a variety of angles. So don't just stand in one spot and always hold your camera the same way. Maybe move around, get it from the side. If you can climb up high, great. If you can take it from below, shooting upwards, awesome. Take horizontal and vertical shots. So horizontal are these examples of the dragonfly. They go kind of side to side like the horizon. Vertical goes up and down like these two examples. We definitely want a variety of horizontal and vertical because sometimes a picture will fit better in our layout if it's horizontal versus vertical. And sometimes it won't fit at all if we don't have the correct space for it. So I always tell students, if you're going to go out and you're going to take a shot, try to take it in at least 2 ways, at least the horizontal and vertical way, but then even more angles like she mentioned above. Here's some great examples of how we have the same subject, but we've switched it up. So in the prom dress, we have one where we're taking it vertical and we're taking it straight on eye level. Here's another where we just did it from a top angle looking down. The flower in the bottom, we have a top angle looking down versus a side angle. And this is a great example of how this flower could look horizontally versus how this flower looks vertically. I like this saw here on the side because it is showing that leading line. It's kind of a diagonal. That's a great way to take a picture too. And then the palm tree in the upper right hand corner is we're crouched down low and we're looking up at it in an angle. So all different angles can create interest. And again, we have a variety of horizontal and vertical shots. The fourth tip that Teresa gives us is get down to the subject's level. We talked about this with our dog picture right away. So here again is a dog. The subject's level is typically where their eyes are, and you want to be looking at their eyes. So if it's a kid, we're crouching down to get to the kid's eyes, or a pet, we're looking at the pet's eyes. If it's an object, think of if you had to draw a face on that object, where would the eyes be? So like these flowers, if I am centering the flowers, where's the main part of that? Crouch down to that eye level. Now, sometimes we're taking it from a higher level or sometimes we're taking it from a lower level, but if we get down to eye level, this will engage the viewer and make them way more interesting. The fifth tip is to experiment with the flash. So the flash on your camera is used when you're in a dark situation. It flashes out a burst of light so that you can actually see the subject and what's happening. However, sometimes it's actually bright outside and you still want to use a flash. For example, if you don't use a flash, you might get some shadows under your eyes and nose because of the sun. So the flash would take away those shadows. And this is a great example. You see it's a bright sunny day, but the girl's face is really, really dark. And so we put on the flash and all of a sudden we see her face. Same down there with the kid on the boat. When the sun's in the background, it's nice and bright, but the flash will let us see their entire face. Another way to experiment with the flash is to figure out the flash range. So typically you have to be within 6 to 10 feet of your subject in order for the flash to pick it up and actually brighten it. Sometimes your camera will have an actual night setting, but it has to be held super, super still for the flash to go off. So just make sure that you're practicing getting either closer or further away when working with your flash during different times of the day. The other thing to avoid when you're using a flash is the windows and the mirrors, or for us in yearbook, when people have glasses. Otherwise, you get that super awesome flash glare. It's really hard to edit that out of a picture. So be wary of placing a subject in front of a window, a mirror, or if they have glasses, you might have to move them around so the light is not reflecting off of those surfaces. In the sixth rule, we're still talking about lighting. We want to be aware of different light and shadows that's happening. So we do not want the sunlight directly overhead because, like I said in the last couple slides, that will cause your face to be shadowed in different spots. So it's actually best if we can take our photos with the sun behind our subjects or move your subject into the shade if possible. However, be wary of the shade, like this girl in the car where we've got half of her face cut off by the shade. So we either need to close the sunroof or ask the subject to move a little so that she's either completely in the sun or completely in the shade. The best time of day to take photos would be earlier in the day or later in the afternoon. If we're taking them directly at high noon, when we say high noon, that means the sun's directly overhead. And again, that can create those ugly shadows and a harsh lighting environment. Number 7, here it is. I've been talking about it. The rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds deals with composition, and essentially what we're doing is we're drawing a tic-tac-toe grid, or we're drawing thirds on our picture, both horizontally and vertically. The goal in the rule of thirds is to place your subject at or near one of the intersections on the tic-tac-toe grid. This still allows the eye room to breathe and what we call some negative space. So these are all great examples of the rule of thirds. When you are taking a picture with a landscape and you're trying to do the rule of thirds, try to get the horizon of the landscape either on the top rule of third or the bottom rule of third. So you'll just have to figure out what you think is more interesting. Do you want to feature more of the sky? Then move the horizon line down. If you want to feature more of the ground, then move the horizon line up for your rule of thirds. 8, we've talked about it before, but it's avoiding those distracting backgrounds. So in yearbook, if we're taking pictures of subjects and it's just supposed to be that person's face, get them in front of a blank wall or something where there's not a lot of stuff going on in the background. Emphasize the subject. If you can use portrait mode on a cell phone where you can blur out the background, that'd be super, super cool. And then just be wary of what could potentially happen in the background, like these poles sprouting from your body or maybe a tree from your head. Number 9 says be the director. Don't be afraid to direct people or ask them to do something different in a picture if you don't like how it looks after or before you take it. So if you need to move them so that they're out of the shade, ask them to move a little bit. If you need them to show a little bit more emotion, great. If a person has a piece of hair that covered their face, say, hey, there's a piece of hair that covered your face. Can we move it and try again? Sometimes we want those candid pictures and those are great, but this is especially important when we are taking the still shots in yearbook. We want those personalities to shine and for the composition to be set up really nicely. We also want to be able to show emotion and set the mood. Talking about showing perspective. Because a photo is one-dimensional, it's kind of hard to show depth if you don't have anything to compare the size to. So if I'm looking at this picture of the tree, looks just like a normal tree. Well, psych, it's actually a giant redwood. And I couldn't tell that from the last person because it just looked like a tree. But when I put these people by the tree, I'm like, whoa, okay, this tree is massive. Or like in the picture of the boat, when I see the people in the boats, I can tell the boats are big. When I want to focus on showcasing the size of a child, I can put something bigger next to it, like the adult's hand, which really showcases how small the baby is. And then just to reiterate, be patient and shoot a lot. It's very easy to delete photos, but it's very hard to make up photos. So try taking a bunch of pictures. You might have to wait for that perfect shot, and you never know when it's going to happen. So if you have a bunch of blurry or pictures, we can delete those. You never know when that great picture is going to come. And then in yearbook, another thing we're going to be able to do with our photos is to be creative and have fun. So we want those interesting pictures, and we can also add interest to our pictures in a couple different ways. So we can do things where we're adding text on the side of pictures. We can do things where we're switching our photos to black and white. Or this is a great example of making a collage of different photos, and they've done some cropping to showcase different features. You can change the color of parts of pictures. So we've changed the color of this girl's prom dress many times. We can do one part in black and white and one part in color. And these are all different techniques that we'll look at in our next lesson where we talk about editing photos. At this point, let's go out and practice all of our new photography tips and take some photos. We're going to participate in this Yearbook 3-1 Fall Scavenger Hunt. So I am looking for you to go out and take 13 photos that you tag and then upload to the proper folder in the Yearbook Avenue image library. So you can actually go out and take the photos, or if you find a photo on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you can use that as long as you get permission from the owner. Remember, we have to follow those copyright laws. You should not have the same photo as another person. So I have a couple different photos that I'm looking for you to get, and here are the lists of those photos. And then you're going to be graded 2 points per photo. So the first point is making sure that you actually meet the photo requirements, and the second point is that you've uploaded it to the proper folder in Yearbook Avenue and you've tagged it. And so what you're going to do in order to turn in and get credit for this is once you've uploaded it to Yearbook Avenue and tagged it, then you're going to take the image name, including the extension. So for example, if I was doing this picture right here, I would write img_2332.jpg in my scavenger hunt. So I would click new attempt, and then let's say that was a picture of a student life. That's where I would write img_2332.jpg. Now, if you don't have all of your pictures done at once, you can still click review answers and it will save it, and you can go back and keep adding them as you upload your pictures. If you're like, well, what the heck is Yearbook Avenue? How do I upload? How do I tag? So Yearbook Avenue is going to be our site that we upload all of our pictures to and where we create the yearbook. The link to Yearbook Avenue is the second link right here under Schoology, and the login information follows it. So your login information is going to be your first and last name. Everybody's password is going to be Cobras1, and then it will ask for a job number, which is 43901. So let me just walk through this. So the job number 43901, it would be your first and last name. Mine looks a little different. And then you would have Cobras1 as your password, and you'd hit let's go. Once you're in Yearbook Avenue, you would need to go to Create and then Image Library. This is where we're going to upload all of our pictures, and this is where all of the pictures that are currently uploaded can be seen. Over here on the left are all of our potential pictures. Now you might see it where it's not expanded, so these little arrows next to each folder will expand that, and then we have folders within folders. So we've got a folder for academics, we've got a folder for ads when we do that, clubs, and then again, you can expand that. So right now I have some student councils, sports, staff. So what you're going to want to do when you have a picture is find the right folder to upload to. A lot of our pictures will go into academics and student life, but some of them might fall within clubs, some of them might fall within a specific sport, some of them might be staff and faculty. Let's just say I'm uploading a student life picture. I'll click on the folder I want to upload it to. And then on the right over here, I would choose Upload Images. I have the chance now, I can drag and drop my photos from my computer, or let's say my photo is hosted on Google Drive, I can select Google Drive and import it that way. Or I can go up to Import Photos here, and that will do that same thing. So I would click Upload Images. Let's say that I have this really super awesome picture of the coronavirus, and that's the one I want to put in the yearbook. I would click Open, and then as soon as it's done, it would show up in green. I can exit out of this once it's done, and it will pop up in my folder. So that is the first step. Upload it to the correct folder. Step number 2 is to tag the image with the person's name. So if I'm wanting to look at these images and see who it is, I can hover over it until I see the blue little eye and click it. And if I have a student, their name should be attached to that person's face. So for example, this is August Kazizik. He is attached to that face. Let's say I'm opening up the coronavirus, and sometimes it will automatically recognize a face and it'll have a box there, and sometimes it won't. If it's missing a box, you can click and it will bring up the chance for you to tag it. You can also move these boxes around if you want, and if you're unsure, you can uncheck Show Faces, and then you can zoom in on the picture and move it around if you need to get closer to see what a person's face looks like. So once you've got a box by a person's face, you click over here, and then you can start typing either their first name or their last name. So let's say that I am trying to do Gage Adams, since he's the third name over here. I could either type in Gage and it would pop up, or I could start typing in Adams and it would also pop up. Now make sure you actually click on the name and that it stays on here if you like it. If you messed up, you can just click the little X and you can go back and retag a person. And then you would just click Done. So for example, if I go into the soccer folder, because I know I just uploaded some pictures here, and I'm looking for my photos, you can filter and you can search for photos that you haven't tagged, and you could also sort by the date added. So if I sort by date added, this is going to put the most recently added photos at the very end of this document. So let's say I'm going into tag certain photos, and I click the little I to tag it. Okay, their faces are kind of far away. I can zoom in down here, and I have a face here and I have a face here. So here's Anna Ridenour. And then I can find her right here. There's Jasmine Willette. Good. And then when I am done, I click done. Now, do not leave a picture untagged if you don't know everybody in the picture. The two other girls in this picture don't go to Triton, so I don't need to leave them tagged. But let's say that I have a picture of 4 students who go to Triton and I only know 3 of them. Do not tag only 3 of them and leave the 4th untagged, because there's no way to filter that you missed one. So if you don't know one of the people, ask me or ask a friend and we will try to figure it out. So you need to tag every single Triton student in the picture. So again, let's say that this is the picture that I'm going to turn in. I've uploaded it, it's in the correct folder, and now I need to actually get credit for it. So it's gs6.jpg. When I am on my fall scavenger hunt, I would scroll down to the one that I want, and then I'd type that in, gs6.jpg. Good luck and happy photo taking and hunting.